welcome to episode 39 of Drew's Baseball Crew on this Friday morning. Happy Friday, everybody. Here on, episode 39 again. And we are previewing the MLB DFS slate for August 18th. So that's tonight's slate. We're going to preview all the games. But before we get started on that, of course, Point Brewery, right? Their great zero sugar root beer is going to help me out and fuel me as I'm going to be doing an Immaculate grid, right? We have to get the baseball mind going, right? And Point Brewery, what better time now, mid-August, Labor Day's coming up, all in stores. And I've seen it for some crazy low prices too. It's like $3.59, $3.69 for 4-packs in stores. I've seen it. Like, come on. They're just giving it away, basically. Some good stuff. Root beer has like a nice vanilla flavor too. It's like a root beer float all in one. Highly recommend. Let's go. Now we got to do a grid. And of course, preview the slate. But first, I want to get through this grid. I'm feeling good about it today. All right. Here we go. It is coming up on the screen. We have the Milwaukee Brewers on there. You know how I feel when the Brewers are on a grid. That's good for me. So right away, I am thinking we could do It's funny. Mike Moustakas and Chase Anderson both work here. I'm debating who we want to use for which. Like, who's going to give us better points? I think Chase Anderson might give us actually better points here. 1%. See, we're good. I'll just say Moustakas is better. Like, Wade Miley could be used. Okay, Moustakas. So Wade Miley is probably the better answer. Brewers Mets. Okay, Vogelbach is probably the one people are all gonna say. Is there any guy who like stands out even more? I'll say Vogelbach, but I feel like there's better answers, and I'm a Brewer fan, so 26. Okay, so not too good. The Chase Anderson was a good one though. Rockies, Nationals. I feel like Jose Iglesias played for the Nationals, but I'm not too sure. Let's do the 100 RBIs first. Thinking like Jay Bruce might be a good answer here. Okay, 4%. Good job. Mets 100 RBIs. I was thinking like Lucas Duda. Could we say a guy like that? But I don't know if that's gonna really work here. 100 RBIs for the Rockies. I'm doing it. I'll just say Arenado. 11%. There's no reason to overthink that one. Did David Wright get over 100 RBIs there? I don't know. I'll say Alonso though. Just recent, a guy. Get us on there. Okay, we have 3 left. How well do I know Nationals? Not too well, but I do know Max Scherzer's a gimme here. Daniel Murphy. Yeah, that's a pull. Daniel Murphy played for the Rockies to end his career. He actually just retired, I saw last week. So happy retirement. Okay, Nationals, Reds. Can we get a perfect score here? Cueto, no. Thinking guys like that. Bronson Arroyo, did he play for the Nationals? Am I overthinking this one? Probably. 'Cause I don't have a name here. Shin-Soo Choo never played there. I really don't have a name. Edwin Jackson, he played for 14 teams. He's always like, oh, who was the guest? Who was the guy there? Adam Dunn. Okay. 57% of people did not, that's fine. 8 out of 9. Solid. Not great, but definitely should have probably pulled that one considering Reds are in the division here at NL Central. Oh, well. The baseball mind is ready. Let's go. Here's the slate for August 18th. We have a wild one. The big thing that's going on here, Colorado's on the slate, and they're at Coors. White Sox are there. Look, my jaw dropped this morning when I saw the over-under open at 12. It's at 12 right now. 12 runs. So you bet we are going to be in that game. There is no reason not to be. Michael Kopech and Peter Lambert are going 2 righties. It is going to be a great day to take players there. I honestly just want to watch that game just based on the amount of offensive output we should see. That is a big one that I looked at. Then we go, is Cincinnati home? Are they home? And they are. Over under there's 10.5. That game's at 5:40 Central, so keep that in my weather report. What are we looking at for rain and whatnot? 33% chance of rain, that Colorado one, but I don't know. I think it'll happen. A lot of winds going on there too. We'll monitor it, right? If it's not going to happen, we'll have a backup plan. But let's go through and let's talk about how we do it. We go through and look at what players have some good history against pitchers that they are facing today, and we'll help use that to start. So the first that stands out is Joey Lucchesi of the New York Mets has faced a good chunk of these Cardinal hitters, and their best two have dominated Joey Lucchesi for their careers. Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado. Listen to this. Goldschmidt is 8 for 16 in 21 plate appearances, 2 home runs, 5 walks to 3 strikeouts, OPS over 1,500. Yes, Goldschmidt is a good option today. I promise you that. Nolan Arenado, not as good, but 8 for 22, 3 home runs. OPS only over 1,200, nearing 1,300. Yes, that is quite the guy to have in your lineup. Here's one I found. There's two I found interesting, and they actually do involve the Milwaukee Brewers, who again offensively have struggled. Mark Canha against Andrew Heaney. This one, so far we have seen 6 for 20, so a 300 average, but 3 walks, 2 home runs, OPS over 1,100. So like numbers wise, it's pretty good for Canha. That's one I found that I was like, okay, could be something. Canha hit his first homer with the team. The Willy Adames was one who absolutely a scuffle. I think he had 7 strikeouts in the 3-game series against the Dodgers. He's 5 for 13, 2 home runs. So if you're like, okay, Adames, it's a bounce back day for him, he gets a matchup against a lefty, and I don't know. It could be one you take, but that's one I'd proceed with caution. Here's one I know I'd like. Eddie Rosario with the Atlanta Braves against Alex Cobb, 5 for 12, 2 home runs, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. Pitchers against the Braves cannot catch a break. I mean, there's always a guy who has some good numbers, and it's crazy to see. CJ Cron against Erasmo Ramirez, 5 for 10 with a home run. So that's Rays, and now Cron with the Angels. I don't know. I think that's pretty good. Like, well, of course, 5 for 10 is good with a home run, but it's a big enough sample size where I'm willing to take that today. Gleyber Torres against Brian Bayo. So keep in mind, Bayo hasn't been in the league that long, so this is pretty recent stuff. 5 for 11 with no home runs, 1 walk to 3 strikeouts. Torres has won that matchup. So middle infield, there's a lot of guys who have experience against players. If you're in the earlier slate, so many who are listening probably are not, but there is a name here, Franmil Reyes. If he is in the lineup today with the Royals against Jameson Taillon, 3 for 4 with 2 home runs. It's quite the stat sheet for him. Jose Ramirez off Tariq Skubal, 5 for 14 with a double and a triple. OPS around 1,000. Mookie Betts off Sandy Alcantara, 5 for 11 with a home run. There's just a lot of offense today, it looks like. So I wanted to highlight all those. And there's more still. Strider's pitching it against the Giants too. But Crawford's 3 for 4 with 3 singles only. Not too much there, but still of note. NJ Melendez, 2 for 3 off of Jameson Taillon with a double in there. So small numbers. Miles Straw is 3 for 7 off of Tariq Skubal. I'm not recommending that one. Just wanted to highlight that. Nick Castellanos off Jonadon of the Nationals, 3 for 6 with 2 doubles there. And another one, Wilson Contreras, not William Contreras, Wilson Contreras off Joey Lucchesi, right? The guy with the Cardinals we discussed. Those numbers, 3 for 5, so decent. 2 strikeouts, only 3 singles. Oh well. Those are the main ones we're looking at today, just based on history. I don't want to just say we have to use history. Shohei Ohtani does have a home run off of Erasmo Ramirez for his career, so that's of note to add. But Otherwise, that's where I'd go with the history. So in summary, you want star Cardinals in your lineup. There's you might want an Atlanta Brave or two, based on history. You might want a Brewer or two, based on history, and then there's just like guys to plug in, like Gleyber Torres, and then I mentioned Framil Reyes, Nick Castellanos, MG Melendez, so guys like that. So you can overall get a well balanced lineup looking at that. But then this doesn't account for matchups like the White Sox and the so we have the White Sox and the Rockies, right? Those teams don't face each other a lot. Balanced schedule now this year will help, but we got to bring in a source like Ballpark Pal, which is linked below. They do a good job breaking down top matchups by percent change in runs created. And we're going to see a lot of Colorado based on that as they use weather conditions. So it's just really nice and really helps out, how to plan and how to look at certain players and what kind of advantages we'll see today. So really helps build that stack, especially with a team like the Rockies. We need to build the stack today. We need it for the White Sox as well. So how are we going to do it? And the way to go to start with the Rockies, the model really likes a few of their players. Ryan McMahon's one it really likes on Ballpark Pal. A percent change of 65% change in their runs created today. So Ryan McMahon, you're going to want to slot in your lineup, and depends on what kind of eligibility. He's going to be overpriced, as that usually happens, but it could be fairly priced, honestly. But I think he is a guy you'd want for sure. I'm looking at McMahon. And then another one the model likes is like Brenton Doyle. He's going to be batting 9 in the lineup, right? But they give him some crazy numbers, a plus 39% change for extra base hits, and then some other good numbers. Brendan Rodgers is another one the model likes. It likes the whole Rocky team, but I think the top 3 that stand out: Rodgers, Doyle, and McMahon. So those are like the 3. If I'm building a stack, I'd like to operate with them. On the White Sox side, I like Oscar Colas today. The model does too. It's their second highest White Sox other than Trace Thompson, plus 42% change for him. A big boost in extra base hits. Really like that or not from Yasmani Grandal, but rather from Oscar Colas, who's going to be batting in the bottom of the lineup. Maybe Andrew Benintendi today. I feel he does a good job putting the ball in play, and in Colorado, that's a big thing. Putting the ball in play. I personally like Benintendi. The model, it does a plus 29% change, but not as much as some other players. But I think that he's worth a mention. Eddie Rosario is mentioned also as a top player, so it's good we already touched on him. Bryce Harper, another one to add, who the history showed us it's a good matchup too. So we like to see when those agree. We didn't even talk about Cincinnati yet. That's the other one. So I want to just talk and summarize some things right now, so you understand kind of where the lineups are looking. With Colorado, that slate, we're looking at the top and the bottom of the order with how beautiful the lineups roll over now with the universal DH. We're looking at like a Doyle, McMahon, Rogers stack. And if you want to take 2 or 3 of those based on positional need, and then you operate with the White Sox going Oscar Colas, potentially taking in Andrew Benintendi as well, or 2, I think are nice. But Moncada won't be a bad option either. You can't go wrong on that slate, but just giving you my names that I'm monitoring. And so that's what I'm doing there. Let's talk about what we're doing in Cincinnati, right? That's still one we have to monitor. Might not be in your slate because it's earlier. You probably hope that because it's going to be tough to judge which ones. And, Brett Kennedy, ERA over 5, he's going for the Reds, a righty. But I'm looking really with this Blue Jay lineup, which is an interesting one. Of course, we hope Dalton Varsho gets it going. He would be a guy, but he's at the bottom of the order here. I like what we see from Whit Merrifield, so I think Merrifield's a good option. I hope Vlad gets it going. He's another one I'd consider. Both those guys, but really on the Blue Jay or on the Red side, right, talking through kind of what the model's looking at, and TJ Friedl is one that stands out, plus 12% change, a big boost there, and getting on base. Your home runs, my bad. 49% boost there. It's pretty insane. Matt McLean's another one. And then also Joey Votto are 3 that that stand out. Toronto, on the Toronto side, actually not too much stands out, but that's why I suggest only a couple from them. Of our show would be a pretty solid play, in my opinion, that I would monitor. So that's where I'm attacking both those games. In my mind, I would like 2 or 3 players from Toronto, Cincinnati, and 2 or 3 players from Colorado, Chicago. So that gives me already 5 or 6 players. So that's going to be, or 4 to 6 players right there. And then I want a player or two from this Tampa Los Angeles game, as I've highlighted. So that's where it's like, okay, that's another one. Over unders at 9.5. They're with me on that. They think there's going to be runs to score. I want a couple from New York, St. Louis. I just want to build a big lineup today, but I highlighted all those players, as you've heard. I did want to touch on the starting pitcher report, though, before we go. What are we doing there, you may ask? If you followed kind of how I built my lineup, you're going to understand it's a pretty pricey lineup today. It is. So that's where we need to look for, some decently priced pitching. We do. I mean, it's just the nature of it today. And there are a few guys I'm looking at. I'm looking at Gavin Williams of the Chicago, or not of the Chicago, really, of the Cleveland Guardians. I'm looking at him. I think that's a good spot for Gavin Williams. He's pitched very well as of late. You can still get him at a good price. He'd be one I'm looking at. If you're looking, again, for some good value too. JP France against Seattle. I like the start for him. I like the matchup as well. Kyle Gibson against Oakland's a high floor play if you're doing 2-pitcher. And then it gets too rich for me, but Brandon Woodruff, I know it's against Texas. I still like him today. I really like Spencer Strider. He's like number 1 for me. It goes Strider and Lopez for me, 1 and 2. So Pablo Lopez is against Pittsburgh. That's a phenomenal matchup. I like him today. But then I'm also thinking about some other matchups. Andre Jackson of the Pittsburgh Pirates is against Minnesota. They've struggled against right-handed pitching. It's a decent matchup. I would only advise in 2-pitcher lineups if to take a guy like Andre Jackson. One I would consider, like, if I'm trying to save, it's like a JP France, Andre Jackson, or even a Gavin Williams, Andre Jackson. But that's as I can't do it in 1-pitcher. 1-pitcher I gotta have. The lowest I'd go is Gavin Williams probably for cost, just based on how competitive the slates are. So in summary here, I mentioned those pitchers. I'll probably be taking Gavin Williams. We'll see how pricing works out, but going through, and he's against the Tigers, so a good matchup too. But in summary, I want a guy or two from the Cincinnati-Toronto game. I'm looking at like Votto, potentially a Toronto Blue Jay there. New York, I'm looking at potentially Gleyber Torres. I mentioned the history there. I mentioned some good history for Bryce Harper and Nick Castellanos. We talked about Eddie Rosario having good numbers against Alex Cobb. We talked about Adames and Mark Canha against Andrew Heaney. And also then we talked about those Cardinals hitter. We talked about Colorado, Chicago. We talked about Ohtani in that one. And also CJ Crone. So that's what I'm looking at for this slate. And I wish you all the best of luck on this. Have a great weekend, everybody. And I will be back Sunday. Sunday, you'll see me an episode of Drew Sports Crew. I'll be at the Packer game tomorrow night against the Patriots. And I want to wish everyone a great weekend. And thank you all for listening here. Another episode of Drew Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.